Hi friends, I couldn't wait to crack into my September kits from Hip Kit Club, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. Hi everyone, my name is Jana Eubank, and this is my first layout that I'm creating with the September 2025 kits from Hip Kit Club. This is called the A New Day Collection, and as you can see as I flip through these gorgeous pattern papers, they are amazing. They're vibrant, they're fun, so many great patterns, and I just love it. Now, I have printed off some photos of my daughter from about 7 years ago when she was having her last day of 6th grade, which was graduation from elementary school. Now, the first thing I do when I get a kit is I print off my favorite photos that I want to work with, and I hold up those photos to all the pattern papers and the cardstocks and just quickly select patterns and colors that complement those photos. I don't think about it too hard. I just look at it and think, okay, what looks good with this? So I have a stack of these papers off to the right, and that's where I'm going to start. Now, of course, I love so many of these patterns, and sometimes that can cause a conundrum for us scrapbookers. We're not sure where to start. So what I do is I just gravitate towards my very favorite pattern paper, and for this kit, it was those apples. I love that those apples are just so fun and whimsical, but also they are a gentle nod to this last day of school photo and memory, and I knew it would be perfect to highlight these pictures. Now, my daughter was, of course, the last day of elementary school, which means she's headed off to junior high. And at this age and stage of our kids' lives, the crayons, the school buses, those kinds of icons don't always seem age appropriate. So I love this kit because it has a little twist of back to school, but it's perfect for your older kids. Now, for this layout today, when I love so many of the pattern papers, one of the techniques I like to turn to is color blocking. And so that's what I'm going to do in my background. I've chosen the teal cardstock to use as a border. I gutted out the center so that I could use the other inside scrap to map my photos. And then, of course, I've picked out these 2 large blocks of pattern papers that complement one another. I started with that apple paper, and then I just flipped through the rest of the papers and found another one that complemented it well and looked well with my photos. And I decided to go with that one with the large yellow dots that are arranged in a grid where the circles are touching one another. I love that pattern paper. It's a nice modern paper that complements the whimsical nature and scattered nature of the apple paper. Now that I have the general idea for my layout and my photos are matted with some cardstock here, I'm going to go ahead and add a horizontal line across the center to separate those 2 patterns. I went back to the pattern paper, of course, and found this film strip pattern paper, and I thought that would be perfect. So I cut out one of those film strips, and then I matted it with the ink cardstock. You can see on my photos that I also used the teal and the ink cardstock as well, so that it ties in with my background layers. The next thing I'm going to do is find a journal spot that I can add some journaling off to the right-hand side. Of course, I don't have to use a journal spot, but there's so many adorable ones to choose from this pack. Also, while I was in there, I found these super cute paper clip die cuts as well as these floral die cuts, and I'm going to incorporate those. And of course, that adorable bright blue mechanical pencil die cut there in the bottom right corner. Now, the next thing I was going to do is pick out a layer to add my title above my photos. My idea was to use one of the journal pieces. However, I wanted something larger than the journal pieces. So I decided to go to this awesome die set that was released this month called the Fancy Edge die set, and it includes 5 borders. These are amazing. They're about 8.5 inches long, and so they are going to be used in a lot of circumstances. And so what I decided to do is cut out a card that looked like a file folder to go above my photos. Now, of course, a file folder is perfect for back to school photos, but it's a nice general shape that you can use over and over again with all of your memories. So I love that about this metal die set. There's so many great patterns and shapes that can be used for not only this month's kits, but over and over. It's just a great basic die to add to your set, to your collection. So the 5 patterns that are in that fancy metal die set is the Fancy Edges metal die set are 2 notebook patterns. There's the tab, and then there's a pinked edge, like a zigzag edge, and then there's a postage stamp edge. So really fun designs. Now, I want to layer up another pattern behind this first pink file folder card that I've created here. And I want to put like a layer of blue behind here. So I've cut a little piece of that cornflower cardstock, and then I've also pulled out a piece of that blue vine pattern paper, which is called Fresh Ideas. I first cut out the cornflower one, and I'm going to try that. And it looks great, but I don't know why the two cardstock or the two solid colors together just looked a little, I don't know, predictable. So I decided to switch that out and go for the blue leaf branches instead. Of course, I was toying with the idea of cutting another tab, but ultimately I decided to go back to one of the notebook edges and use that one instead. So I'm going to layer that kind of ski wampus behind the first card, and I love how that looks. So I am going to use that cornflower card bordered that I cut earlier, so be sure to watch where I add that in later. So next I'm going to pull out the foam stickers here, and I'm just looking for some, title options to kind of get me started. I think I'm just going to go with the title Last Day of School, but I was peeking through those, seeing if there was any other phrases that might, inspire me. But I decided to go back to the journal die cuts. You can see I picked out a couple more that I'm going to layer on top of that marshmallow pink file folder card that I created, just to add more interest and pattern and color up in that area. Now, I apologize. My camera here is kind of bouncing, like the lens is bouncing in and out. Not sure why it's doing that. I'm not sure if it was having a hard time focusing. And so I will check my settings for the next video, but hopefully it's not making you, sick or anything. So please excuse that little flaw here in this video. Now, I went through the cardstock die cuts, and of course I had to pick out that adorable backpack as well as the pencil pouch and the alarm clock. I also picked out the die cut with the globe and the stack of books to go on the other side. And then I bounced over to the floral die cuts and pulled out some little leaf branches here to tuck in behind them. Now I want to put a nice fun title onto that card, and I thought I loved my two clusters of the die cuts, but I thought, you know what, that globe might be crowding my title a little bit. So I decided to just stick with the backpack and the clock on the right hand side, and I removed the globe there. I'm going to switch these little die cuts around to add the notebook piece towards the top, and then I'm going to do a mixture of fonts here for my title. I'm going to use the puffy alphabet sticker that came in the September kits. It's this beautiful coral red color. I like that it ties in with the florals that are below, as well as the apples in the background of the paper. And then I'm also going to bring in the stamp set. This one's a little bit older. This one's from September 2024. It's called the Block Alphabet Stamp and Die. So I went ahead and used the Stellar ink from the color kit from July 2025 in the Clear Skies color, that beautiful teal blue color, and created the word school. So I will have the words last day of with the puffy alpha stickers, and then the word school in those stamps. Now, before I adhere this all down, I decided to do some hand stitching around this file folder shape. So I just went ahead and used a paper piercer and, punched some holes around the edges, and then I used a needle and some thin white twine to hand stitch that. I will also come back and do some stitching around the apple paper as well as the yellow dot paper, just to tie that all in, and you'll see that in the closing shots. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of this adhered down. I'll spare you some of the footage of that just to make this a little bit quicker, but I am going to again layer that green journaling bit there. I love that it has the punched holes on it as well as the simulated torn edge, and then that white notebook paper there from the journal bits helps that title really stand out. I am using some 1/8 inch foam strips to pop up those school letters, as well as some other foam pieces to pop up all of my embellishments. So I popped up the flowers on the corner of the photo. I popped up the mechanical pencil there on the bottom, and then I'm also popping up all the pieces here in this backpack cluster as well as the leaves. So that came together really well. Now on the tab I had a little bit of space, and I was thinking that I might add the date there, but I went back to the cardstock die cuts and found these little pieces of, phrases and words, and one of them that says excited fit in that space perfectly. So I added that up there. I love that because this is the last day of school, and so yes, my daughter was definitely excited. I also went to the foam stickers and found that little phrase that says never stop learning, and I just popped that in next to the alarm clock because of course over the summer you want to keep learning. morning. I then went to the cardstock shape stickers and I switched out that paperclip die cut for a heart-shaped paperclip sticker, and I like that because it repeats that coral red color that's in the title. And of course, the heart just looks super cute and girly. Now, to the right of my title, there was this little bit of an empty space, so I pulled out the puffy shape stickers and I'm looking for some things that I can sprinkle in here. I found these little black confetti dots and I'm going to sprinkle those above the backpack as well as the mechanical pencil. And then I found this little stack of books with an apple that I'm going to pop above the letter or the second letter O. Now, here is where I bring back in that cornflower piece. I did trim that off the card, and then I'm just going to use these little snippets of this border to fill in the space above the journaling block and also bring more of that notebook edge into this school themed layout. I'll put a little piece of that, just tuck that there on the right side of the layout, and then I'll cut a little piece and tuck that behind the flowers on the left side of the layout so that it looks like I have a continuous border going across. And I love that. It adds another shade of blue and of course lots of texture and interest to this page. Now, as I was looking at this page, deciding what other detail I could add, my film strip looked a little blank, a little lonely there actually. So I pulled out the Pocket Life stamp set, and on that stamp set was this teeny tiny teeny tiny star. It's the perfect little size to sprinkle in some confetti. So again, I pulled out that Clear Skies Stellar ink from the July 2025 color kit. I'm just going to stamp that here in each of these little boxes. I like that it ties back into the title, and I'll also add a few of those stars down here on the journal block to just bring that color down to the bottom of the page. And that will complete my layout. Again, I do some hand stitching around the apple paper as well as the yellow dot paper, so be sure to notice that in the closing shots. These are the September 2025 kits from Hip Kit Club. My name is Jana Eubank. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.